Hey all, it's Savvy Davy reporting back to you. Glad you are here with me. We have another intriguing, jaw-dropping story. All right, I'm bringing to you today. It's out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Before we begin, let me just take a moment here to remind you to like the video, thumbs it up, and subscribe to the channel. Okay, don't forget um, the notification settings. Okay, if there's any part of this story that you may want to correct or have an opposing opinion on, feel free to let us know down in the comment area. With that said, let's jump in. This story out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Okay, it's not a very recent story. Let me, just put that out there up front. The story is less than a year old, and it's actually ongoing, okay? Because many of the parties involved have not been settled, are not happy, or disgruntled because of the inconclusiveness, all right, missing pieces, all right, parts of the story that just do not add up, don't make sense whatsoever, and is seen as a breach, all right, a huge chasm of justice. The way the story unfolds is that the body of a 25-year-old woman was found laying outside of a home in the backyard. The woman apparently was from another side of town or across town or across the state. Okay, she was from a distance, but from the same state. The body was said to be shot to death with multiple gunshot wounds. After the body was found by the persons who lived in the home early one morning, they realized that this woman's child was missing. She had a 3-year-old son. Okay. His name is Major Harris. Mallory Munzenberger. She was an aspiring nurse. She was actually attending a technical college. She was a single mom, and she actually had 2 jobs at the time of her demise. But she did have a close relationship with her father and her stepmother. After 911 was called upon finding or discovering this body in the backyard, police set out to find out, what's going on. There was an Amber Alert sent out to find the little boy because no one knew where the little boy was. The little boy was missing, but the body of his mom was found. The investigation had so many different angles. They were searching for the son. They were searching for the killer of this woman. The police had actually got tips from, the public, and were able to round up about several different people who they were interviewing. After speaking to several of them, they came to the conclusion that most of them were let go, and about 2 of them they had as major suspects. All right. Now, the 2 who they had as major suspects happened to know each other, and Mallory's parents were determined to find out who murdered their daughter, how their daughter was murdered, why their daughter was murdered. It was reported that one of the suspects who lived in the house that Mallory's body was found behind actually text messaged his mom and called his mother, who lived in that house, to let her know that he was not responsible for the murder, that that he feels like he was in danger, and that he wants to protect his family because they may be in danger. The police eventually went to this person's house. His name is Jaheim Clark, the son of the woman who lived in the home where the body was found behind. Jaheim Clark was not in the home at the time the police came to search the home. They raided the home. The mother was in there, and other small kids were in the house. One of the kids, I think the mother said of Jaheim Clark, that the child was on dialysis, had a disability, and the police went into the home while this child was still in the home with no adult supervision except the police being in there doing their search. They would not allow her to go back and get the child out. Eventually, the police found out that Jahim did speak to his mother through text message and call. And apparently, the mother had stated that she did not speak to him. I don't know if she had forgotten that she spoke to him or she only thought they meant, whether text message or some form of communication. But she was later arrested for obstructing justice. According to news reports and police reports, he was at another family member's house, a name that they had put out to the public, but we can get into this a little deeper in a short while. So Mallory's vehicle was discovered. Okay, this dead 25-year-old former single mom of this missing 3-year-old. Her car was discovered, and there was blood discovered in her car. Okay, when they searched the home where Jaheim Clark, the main suspect, lived, they found blood in the stairwell, at the top or near or halfway up the stairs in his home. A pool of blood or a significant, considerable amount of blood on the stairway. The police started to close in on Jaheim Clark. They continued to get tips, and they went to the house where he was, which was not the house that he actually lived in. It was another location. They were closing in on that location. According to news reports, it's alleged that when the police started closing in on the location he was actually at, he shot himself. So the news reports and the police reports allege that according to medical examiner conclusions, Jaheim committed a self-inflicted fatal injury to his head with a gun. Okay, so that's one suspect, right? Down. There was another suspect, though, involved in this situation. Let's remember now that this 3-year-old is still missing the whole time the police is investigating this murder. They were closing in on one of the top suspects. As they look for the 3-year-old, the second suspect now is a young man who claims that he did help hide the body of this toddler. He did not want to speak on it. He refused to speak about where the body was, according to the authorities. There's an assistant Milwaukee County District Attorney by the name of Grant Hubner. He is the one who drafted the immunity agreement in October. So this young man, he's 21 years old. His name is Robert Williams. He received immunity if he would just disclose where the location of this 3-year-old's body was. Now, Assistant District Attorney in Milwaukee County, he stated that, or he told investigators that he had never made such a deal, the type of immunity deal that he made with this 21-year-old man, Robert Williams. He said he never did this in his entire career. But he felt like it was the last ditch effort to find the little boy, the missing 3-year-old Major Harris, who he thought or officials thought might still be alive. According to the assistant district attorney, he says that his boss, the county district attorney, would only agree to do this immunity deal if the victim's family was on board about it or agreed to it. Okay, so he insisted that both the missing little boy's father and the parents of the deceased 25-year-old woman all were on board about it. They all agreed that 21-year-old Robert Williams can receive immunity if he just tells them where their missing son and grandson is. So they were on board about it. Robert Williams. He said, okay, I'm down with the deal. I'll tell you and I'll show you guys where the body is. He did that. They found the body. The 3-year-old was deceased when they found the body. What he stated was that he helped 20-year-old Jaheim Clark, the one who is stated that he committed suicide in the bathroom of a location where the police was closing in on him right before they heard, the gunshot go off when he fatally hurt himself. So Robert Williams, age 21, says that he was only assisting 20-year-old Jaheim Clark, who Robert Williams accuses of or states is the actual murderer of the child and the child's mother. Now, remember here that Robert Williams is the only surviving suspect in the case, meaning that he can say whatever he wants to say about the deceased. There are three deceased here, three dead bodies here. Okay, the 25-year-old single mother, the 3-year-old, and the other suspect who was accused of murdering them. But the one living, the suspect alive, is stating that he was only the assistant, he was only the accomplice in this crime. He was not the person who actually pulled the trigger or any of that, hurting the two victims. And the police went with that. They're like, you know what? You would not be charged for being an accomplice, for whatever other allegations that's gonna arise when you hide the the body of a dead person, or when you assist a murderer, or whatever, how many ever number of charges will be held against him. He became immune to any of that, to all of that. And then Mallory Munzenberger's father became very upset about this. He is like, you know what, you guys got to charge him for something. He committed a crime too. Even if he's saying that he's not the actual murderer, he committed a crime too. Like, don't just let him get off like that. And the guy got off because the family agreed to the deal. The assistant district attorney and the county district attorney, wanted the family on board. All the family members who were vital in the situation were on board, and they went. So the family could not now turn back and say, "Hey, charge him with something," when you guys agreed to the immunity, according to the district attorney. Okay, the grandfather often took pleasure in spending time with his grandson, his 3-year-old grandson, Major Harris. He would take him to the park. He would help watch him for his daughter, babysit him. He would take him fishing. And even Mallory went fishing with her family when she was young as well. So it seemed like a family tradition that they would go fishing. And then, that they're also teaching it to their grandson, who they appeared to be very proud of. Now, Major Harris, his father, comes into the picture during the search, and upon hearing the murder of, his child's mother, he comes into the picture. He's all over the news, media, being interviewed, all over the television, media, social media. He's everywhere in the news. He's everywhere, being distraught, showing his emotion, expressing his emotion, his upset of the demise of his 3-year-old son. But according to Mallory Munzenberger's dad, Major Harris' dad, Carlton, was not much of a dad. According to the deceased woman's father, she was taking care mainly of her son, whose father lived across town. According to Mallory's parents, they did a lot of parenting for little Major Harris, where his father was not around, available most of the time. Major Harris' granddad states that he tried to fill that father figure role for his grandson. Say that 3 times. There's likely a major reason why Major Harris' dad was not around. Mallory likely didn't want him around her and her son. He was considered one of 10 violent offenders and one of the worst chronic violent offenders in the community. He had cases against him in 2 separate counties related to domestic abuse, battery, disorderly conduct. Okay, so of course her father or her parents are not going to see him in a favorable light or want him around their daughter or encourage their daughter to be around him. Now, the police doesn't have Major Harris, the little kid. They didn't have his father as a suspect in his mother's death or his death. From the opinion of the grandfather, this is the reason why, despite being on the news, despite being on social media, despite displaying all of this emotion during the search of his son and finding out about the death of his son's mother, despite all of the vigils, despite all the vigils that was held and the community coming together and just having boots on the ground searching for this missing child, despite all of this, he still did not show up to his son's funeral, to his son's burial, the day of his son's burial. He was nowhere in sight, no face in sight. I don't know about you here, but to me, it speaks volumes. According to the grandfather, he feels it's due to the warrants that Carlton Harris had out on his name that he was not prepared to face up to. Okay, some say he was turning his life around, but if there were still warrants out on his arrest and he refused to be or to accept punishment for them, and is that doesn't that not come along with turning your life around, taking accountability? He didn't seem to fear being captured by police or his warrants when he was during the vigils, a part of the news interviews, etc. The father had also agreed that he wanted his son buried where the deceased mother of his son, was buried. He told the family that yes, we don't mind my son being buried in La Crosse, Wisconsin, where you guys are. Despite the distance, it's fine. He agreed to that, and then all of a sudden he switched it and said no, he don't want his son to be buried out there near the mother. He wants him on his side of town near to him. Now he's the parent; he can make those final decisions, and the grandparents realized that because they were very emotionally upset about the sudden, unexpected, unpredictable switch that this man had made regarding the fact that they were going to have their grandson nearer to them where their daughter was. So now the son and the mother are buried separately just because the father agreed that they can be together, eternally resting in peace. And then he switched it. So I mean, I could see how heartbreaking that would be. That and the family had said they had already made all the arrangements for the child's funeral and all of the other investments they had established for the funeral. And then suddenly the father of the child just said, hey, no, I'm changing my mind, whatever. So hopefully they're able to find solace in that area. It seems like they do have a strained relationship with the father of the deceased grandson, and it will continue to be that way, apparently, at least up to this point. We can only hope for the best. Let's get back into the two murder suspects. According to reports, one had committed suicide in the bathroom of a particular location that was not his own house or where he resided with his family. The other one is stating that, you know what, hey, it wasn't my idea. Clark, who committed suicide, is the one who was the murderer, and he is sticking to that. But here's some strange things that went down that may have you, but definitely has me questioning the truth in this matter. Who is the true murderer, the killer, the actual one that should be in jail behind bars for a lifetime in this situation? According to the family, things that did not add up. According to Jaheim Clark's family, the deceased guy accused. According to the family, things that did not add up. According to Jaheim Clark's family, the deceased guy accused by the medical examiner conclusively of committing suicide. According to his family, Jaheim Clark's body, when they went to identify it, did not match up to what police stated happened that day. You know, if someone was to hurt themselves fatally, usually if they use a gun, it would just be one gunshot wound. It would rarely, or perhaps let's just say impossible to do it twice unless the bullet ricocheted or some other supernatural or freak accident was to happen. Unless that happened, and in the location that the bullet wounds were found, his family stated that there were two bullet wounds in the top of his head. entering the top of his head and exiting through the back of his neck. Okay, other family members stated that Jahim had cigarette burns all over his hands. They also stated that he had bruises as if he was beaten up in some way, like a dent on his body. I think it may have been in the head area. I'll have to confirm that. That they said it was a tear in his inner right eye that seemed to have been someone had tried to patch it back up. They told the mother that she would have to go to the funeral home if she wants to see the body. Now, I don't know if she had seen it initially and wanted to see it again or review it again, or was that the first time she had requested it and they told her wait till it gets to the funeral home to see it. According to the family members, the mother has yet to receive the medical examiner's report of the autopsy, and that they would not allow them to see the body of their deceased son and cousin and brother, only the face, and they won't let them see the other parts of the body. So there's all kinds of other things that are very strange happening in this story, which actually drew me to the story. That's what pulled me to the story. The many different facets of the story. The family stated that their beloved one, Jaheim Clark, was not, in their opinion, the murderer of Mallory Munzenberger and her 3-year-old son. The family stated that they don't even know, they have no clue how their son, Jaheim Clark, knew Mallory Munzenberger. They knew that they were acquaintances. They were acquainted with each other, but not in a deep way where he would talk about her as a girlfriend or mention her in any way, in any deep way, close way, intimate way. The first time they actually heard about her or saw her was the day they found her body lifeless. And even of her son. They don't know of Mallory and her son. Why was she outside the house of Jaheim Clark? Is what his family wants to know in their backyard. The family wants to know, why would someone who murders another person hide, or put or place or think of hiding her child's body in another location, but leave her body just laying in the back of their house if they were the murderer? Wouldn't a murderer who has an accomplice move the body somewhere else, just like how they moved the 3-year-old's body somewhere other location and hid it? Why was her body not hidden if they didn't want to be caught or face murder charges? So the family has all of these interesting questions for authorities to answer that they are refusing to answer or ignoring them, avoiding. Remember what I said initially in this video. The deceased Jaheim Clark, accused of committing suicide, stated that he had nothing to his mother. He had nothing to do with this murder. And he asked his mother not to believe anyone who accuses him of this murder. The mother states that, of Jaheim Clark, she states that she believes her son knows who committed the murder, but does not want to say and wants to protect his family, wanted to protect himself. Because he may know that the person who did it is a very dangerous person and can hurt other people, a very heartless person, a cold killer. Yes, we oftentimes hear of mothers who defend their sons who may be killers. We hear mothers who defend their sons who are menace to society, who need to be in prisons forever, who needs to be off the streets. We know of mothers like this, but then there are also mothers who know their children well enough to the point where they feel safe to say, my son won't do that. Now, nobody is 100% able to say somebody wouldn't do something. As humans, we have the tendency, strong tendency, to disappoint each other at some point, no matter how much we love each other or care about one another. Disappointment's going to come unless you are perfect. So, of course, we can't say 100% that she could predict whether her son would commit murder or not. But she felt safe enough to say, that's not her son. James Clark's, the 20-year-old who committed suicide, his family stated also that he was not gang affiliated. If he was in connection or had an acquaintance with this guy in this picture who's throwing up gang signs, stated that he helped hide the body. He helped Jaheim hide the body. But then He's the one throwing up gang signs. There's lots of pictures out there of Jaheim, but none of them showed Jaheim throwing up gang signs. But it did show Jaheim connected to this particular 21-year-old Robert Williams throwing up gang signs. This could be the reason why Jaheim called his mom or texted his mom and let her know, that he feels like his life is in danger, his family's life is in danger if he comes home or if he speaks about the murder that he may have witnessed. The guy receiving immunity commit. Now, who is the true murderer here? Perhaps Jaheim thought that Robert Williams would come and take his life if he was caught by police and quote unquote snitched or spoke against this gang affiliated person. Who knows what the real answers are? Or is Jaheim Clark the actual murderer of this child and the child's mother and needed the help of this apparent gang affiliated young man? Because according to reports, the young man says, he threw out like a pink bucket or basin, and Jaheim threw out the child's car seat out of Mallory's Jeep that the police found at another location, which had blood in it. He said he helped with all of that. He helped with disposing items from Mallory's vehicle, but then he also helped with hiding Mallory's son's body, which they found in a dumpster not far away from the scene. Another strange part of the story is the fact that the assistant district attorney and the county district attorney went ahead with the immunity to locate the body of the 3-year-old who was missing. Okay, this is why the deal was set. The family wanted the body. They were so focused on seeing their grandson, finding their grandson, which we can understand. But they also stated that they had suspected the child could still be alive, which is why they were so insistent on making this deal right so fast and locating the body that the child could be saved, perhaps. But then the guy who stated that he helped hide the body, he referred to it as a body. He didn't say he helped hide the child, the living child. He didn't state that, oh, the child is still alive. Neither me or Jaheim shot the child. He didn't say that. Medical examiner ruled the child's death as homicide as well. So who was ever able to shoot a 3-year-old, definitely a heartless, cold person. So why is the family or district attorneys in search of the child, hoping that they can still save the child when Robert Williams, 21 years old, who may have been gang affiliated according to pictures, state that he knows where the child is all these days later and accuses his friend of killing the child and the mother? Why would they state that the immunity deal was only because they could still save the child when the person who received the immunity deal is stating that he hid a body of a child, not a living child? This is so odd. Who is telling the truth here? Was the deal created because the child was highly suspected to still be alive, or did the person receiving the immunities tell y'all he know who kills the child and the child's dead is dead and only the body you can retrieve and he knows where it is? Which one is it? He didn't tell you whether the child was alive or not. What was the point of the deal if you're not going to find a living child? Was it just to have the body dead or alive? Or did you really think you were going to be able to save a child? When this guy had admitted that Jaheim Clark, Robert Williams states that 20-year-old Jaheim Clark threatened to kill him if he did not look up on Google how long does it take for a body to decompose. So now get this. This guy, Robert Williams, is stating that he was forced by a 20-year-old Jaheim Clark to look up how long does it take for a body to decompose on his own device. But yet, Jaheim Clark, the person who wants to know this stuff, did not look it up on his phone. He said he was threatened by the deceased to look it up on his own phone, Robert Williams' phone, and he feared for his life. That's why he looked up how long does it take for a bride. Really? I mean, hey, like I said, I don't want to judge, but the police is, to me, appearing to just take anything that this Robert Williams is stating as gospel, as truth, as the way things went. The family members say it didn't seem like or appeared to be suicide. It appeared to be that their son was terribly beaten up, double gunshot wounds, not far apart from each other in the head, and cigarette burns that were not there before his demise, Jaheim Clark's death. So everything's now based on the words of the accomplice, who we cannot prove now because of immunity whether or not he is actually the murderer. Now, there might be different things in the case where they are able to um, appeal as far as the murder, but not as far as him admitting that he was the accomplice in hiding the body. I'm not sure about that. I can understand, the pain of the family at this point, both families, all families actually involved. According to Mallory's family, they felt like Mallory was too trusting. They are not aware of how she is connected to all of these characters. Okay, all the suspects that the police had initially, which was several, how are they linked to her and her murder? The final part I'd like to say here is the fact that Jaheim Clark took his own life. The real reason he took his own life, we can't know. But it is very suggestive as to how heavy, how weighty, how serious his part was in this case, due to the fact that he felt the need to take such an extreme measure or make such a mind blowing decision to end his life. Justice may have been carried out in this matter. Only time will tell. Something else might come out on this case in the future or never. Either way, there are eerie signs in this story. We cannot deny that Carlton Harris, the father of late 3-year-old Major Harris, looks a lot like Lil Boosie, right? The celebrity. Also, I find it interesting that late 3-year-old Major Harris has the same name as T.I.'s son, Major Harris, and close to the same look as T.I.'s son when he was that age, right? Let us know down below. That's all I want to share in this particular video. Please leave below how you feel about this story. Like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Till more videos ahead. Stay tuned.